Do you guys want to clear big groups of ads without having to use Fireball or Ice Shards as your enchantment, like this?
I need time.
Do you guys want to PvP as a sorcerer and not have to use ice in PvP, like this?
I need time to prepare.
Then stick around because that's what we are covering in today's video. Hi guys, I hope you're all having a great 4th of July. I hope you guys have a safe and fun holiday. Today's video we're going to be going over the in-depth version of the Arclash/Ball of Lightning build for the Sorcerer in Diablo 4. You guys have actually requested me to go in-depth, and I appreciate the love and support on the channel. Thank you so much. And I'm excited to make this video for you guys. I'm going to try to keep it short and sweet. But as always, for some of you guys who don't want to watch a lengthy video, the build will be in the description box down below, so you guys can check that out. And if you guys end up liking the build and enjoying it, please consider subscribing. We're on our way to getting 1K subs, and that'd be awesome if I get that before my birthday. Thank you guys, and let's get into this video. So we're going to start this video out in a few parts. We're going to start with the gear. We're going to go over the skill tree. I'm just going to be covering the most important stuff for the skill tree because I don't want you guys, I don't need to really go in that detail because I'm pretty sure you guys can look and understand. I'm just going to cover the key points that are very crucial. Then we're going to go into the Paragon board, and then we're also going to talk about mistakes and pros and cons of the build and just try to help you guys avoid it. I'm going to give you guys alternatives as well, so if some of you guys can't run this build is designed to, you can start running it from level 1 to 100. And the uniques just make the build even better. So let's dive into this. So starting off with the armor, the helmet, we're going to be starting with Disobedience. Again, Disobedience, you guys all know it's meta in every class, every scenario. You get tankier as you deal damage. And really the roles that you're looking for on the helmet when you're out there is you're looking for maximum health, you're looking for an all stat role, and you're looking for cooldown reduction and total armor if you can get it. If you want maximum magic, you can take that as well, but you're really trying to be as tanky as possible because you are jumping in the line of fire, like in the line of fire basically, and you want that cooldown reduction as well because this build is centered around cooldowns, as you guys are going to see. Now moving on to the chest piece, we have Raiment of the Infinite. This is pretty meta for sorcerers, you guys all know this. You just want this because this turns your teleport into a CC. Our teleport is already a CC ability even without this, and I'll explain that when we get into the skill tree. But so if you don't have this, what you can do is just try to find a chest piece that's going to give you some DR, some increased damage, and try to get one that's going to have intelligence roll on it if you cannot get Raiment. But our teleport will still be a stun ability, so you won't have to worry if you don't have it. Now for the gauntlets, you're going to want the enchantment where Flame Shield allows you to immobilize people. This is going to be very important because this is going to proc a lot of damage for you in the build. And on the gauntlets, what you're really looking for is critical strike damage, critical strike chance. If you can get attack speed, cool. You don't really need the overpower damage, but the crucial things you are really looking for in this build is lightning, critical strike, and critical strike chance. Those two for sure are the things you want. Attack speed, if you can get it, awesome. It's not the game changer. And then where I have overpowered, you would definitely probably want like intelligence or something like that. Now for the legs, you want to try to focus on making the legs as tanky as possible because again, this build's all about being up close and personal. So if you can get any damage reduction, maximum health, and of course you're going to want ranks in Ball of Lightning because Ball of Lightning is like, it's part of the build, part of what makes it cool. Now going back to the gauntlets, again, if you guys don't have Ball of Lightning or you just don't like it, you can use Chain Lightning and get 4 points of Chain Lightning into here. This build, I made it in a way where it does synergize with Chain Lightning or Ball of Lightning. So it's your pick, whichever one you guys like. And remember, you can use this build leveling up any point in the game. Now for the boots, we're going to have Penitent Greaves. Now this is my little spin that I kind of came up with like out of nowhere. When I was playing, because like I always thought these boots were dumb, to be honest, and I was thinking as a sorcerer, I'm like, I'm never going to use this, I'm at a distance casting, blah blah blah. And then when I switched to Arclash, because I love the way it feels, I took a chance to read it again, and I was like, okay, wow, so I'm going to do a lot of damage if I chill enemies, and this build is all about being up close, so this is just free extra damage that I get just for wearing boots. Now if you don't have these, or you're someone who really loves to have your 4 evades, what you can do is run normal boots and just try to get those boots to have, try to get those boots of yours to have, teleport ranks, if you can get flame shield ranks on them too, and then obviously you want to try to grab, if you can get movement speed. I just like movement speed as a personal preference, and if you can get intelligence, or if you just need more stats for something else, you could roll that as well. That's good. And then also, if you don't have this, and the legendary aspect that you could put on here to make up for that is the legendary aspect where if you stand still, you deal increased damage. Or no, you can't use that one. Sorry. If you don't have this, I would use the one where you deal increased damage to unstoppable opponents. That is the one that I would use. I forgot the name. I will leave it in the pinned comment down below when I figure out the name of that aspect. But that is what I would use if you don't have these. It's a great aspect, and it goes on the boots, and it's free damage. Now, for the weapon, we are going to be dual wielding. We're going to be using a dagger and a focus. The reason why we're using a dagger, for the obvious reason, we're up close and personal. We want to grab that extra 30% damage. But the reason why we're not using a staff, though, is because we wouldn't be able to fit all our aspects on it. And again, cooldown reduction is a big part of the build. So we're just giving up that boosted aspect and crowd control damage for that. Now, on the dagger, I made a video talking about this. What you really want to try to aim for is crowd control damage. If you can get all stat damage on the dagger, that's perfect. And you want to get critical strike damage, and you want to get vulnerable damage, because again, as a sorcerer, we have guaranteed ways to cause vulnerable. And when you're fighting world bosses and stuff, everything is always vulnerable, so you want to get that vulnerable damage. It's going to give you the most DPS output. Now on the focus, oh yeah, I forgot. And then we're going to use the gravitational aspect on the dagger, so ball of lightning can orbit around us. That is what's going to make the build pop. Again, if you don't have this, you can use the aspect where chain lightning bounces multiple times. Or I would actually probably even replace that for the aspect where if you stand still, you deal increased damage. Because a lot of times, you're going to be face tanking. You're going to just jump to a group of ads, you're going to sit there and just swing. And as you're swinging, you're just ramping up your damage. Now, for the focus, we're going to be using Edge Masters for the aspect. Again, this is great. When you guys are playing this build, you're going to see that you have so much ways to keep your magic full the entire time. It's pretty awesome. And this is just going to help you to always have some form of increased damage. Because remember, it's scaling, you know, up from like a 10 to a 20%. Like, you know what I mean? You're just dealing more damage like as you're going through the fight, and you're always going to have magic. So at some point, you're either going to be on the high end or the low end. You're just always going to have increased damage. Now, the focus is nice because, again, it comes with cooldown reduction at base, but then you can add cooldown reduction on it. Unfortunately, with mine, I don't have it, but if you were going to make a focus, you definitely want to try to get critical strike chance. You want to try to get an intelligence roll. You want to try to get cooldown reduction. And then on the last one, I went with basic skill damage because I really want basic skill damage, because that's basically the big part of the build, is try to get basic skill. Again, on the dagger too, you see I have basic skill as well. Basic skill is also a good thing. So like if you don't grab the vulnerable damage or you don't grab the crowd control damage, you could take basic. This is personal preference. You are still going to hit hard regardless, even without it. Now, to move on to the jewelry, we are going to use the aspect of control. Again, this is pretty meta for sorcerers. You guys all know this. You know, we deal more damage to stun, immobilize, frozen, which is the whole build. And you really want to put this one on the amulet, because remember, amulets give you a 50% buff in the overall damage of the aspect. And on the amulet, what you're looking for is you're really trying to find ranks of devouring blaze, which we're going to cover, ranks of mastery skills, because mastery skills is going to be very important, because that's going to increase the damage of ball of lightning. You want to get cooldown reduction, because again, cooldown reduction is going to be a huge part of the build. And then mana cost reduction, cool. I don't think you need it, because the magic sustain with this setup is insane. I personally would have rather just picked maybe a straight up damage perk, maybe I would have gotten health or just something else. I think on that third spot, that's like free. Or honestly, now that I think about it, I would probably really want to try to get all defensive. Just get a defensive, mastery, and devouring blaze. If you could get that somehow, that would be amazing. Now on the jewelry, jewelry is going to follow the same formula as the dagger. So we want to try. I'm going to try on our jewelry to get crowd control damage, vulnerable damage, and critical strike damage. Those three are the ones we really want to try to get. And then I would recommend getting a maximum life on here, because again, you want to have a lot of health, because you are jumping in combat, and as a sorcerer, the more health that you have, the bigger your shields are going to be as you cast cooldowns, which I'll show you guys in the passes when we get to that point. As you guys can see, these rings are pretty bad. They're pretty mediocre at best. They'll get you through the content, but they're not the best. And then what we're going to have for the first aspect on the ring is retribution. This is going to give enemies an 8% chance to get stunned, and if we stun people with this build, we regenerate 10 mana, And then also we deal a lot more damage to stun targets, as you guys can see, a 40x. Now on the second ring, same principle. You want to try to get critical strike damage, crowd control damage, and critical and vulnerable damage. So you want to get those 3 stats. And then again, I would try to get health. If you can't get that, I would also recommend getting critical strike chance. Definitely try to get critical strike chance on some part of the gear. If you can get on the jewelry, cool. You get on the gauntlet, cool. But you want it because, again, critting is very important, because if we crit, we have greater chances to stun, which if we stun, we do more damage, and we regenerate magic. So now let's get into the skill tree now that we covered everything. And I'm just going to show you the stats right now at base, just so you can kind of see like where we're sitting at with Paragon and everything. Vulnerable damage is very low, and that is because of the mistakes I just talked to you guys about, how none of my gear has vulnerable damage. This was more of like a skill issue and lack of knowledge of how good vulnerable really is in the end game. That's why I recommend on your jewelry and on your dagger, you try to get some form of vulnerable damage. Because if I would have gotten vulnerable on all 3 of those pieces, this most likely would be sitting at like 300% or something like that, you know, at least. But of course I messed up, and that's just something I want you guys to avoid. And then I'm going to go ahead and show you like how high the stun damage is with this setup currently, if you guys decide to like really copy and paste it. I'm just going to tell you some mistakes to really avoid. I don't know why my character's standing still. Alright, well, she's acting weird. Alright, hold on. So, if we go here, I'm being attacked. I'm gonna die, but it's okay. So my stun damage is 667. Hold on. So my stun damage is 667, right? Which again is awesome. You know, it's great that it's that high, but as I explained in the damage video, you would do significantly better if all this damage was put into crowd control, because again, this buff would be more consistent, because crowd control counts for stunning, chilling, freezing. And the reason why I say that, especially for this build, why you want more crowd control, is because our boots are chilling, guys. So chill is considered a crowd control ability. And so imagine if this was 660% paired with Penitent Greaves, how much harder I would hit. So again, these are things I want you guys to think about as you're going into the game and looking at all this stuff. Now we're going to go over the skill tree, and on the skill tree part, I'm just really going to focus on touching on the key passives and just things that you guys need to do. So when you get your Arc Lash, you want to max Arc Lash out, okay? Arc Lash is going to be your main damage dealer. Hold on, let me just get back into town.
I cannot do that here.
So I can do this without being attacked. Sorry guys, hold on. Alright, so what you want to do is you want to max out your Arc Lash. You guys see my Arc Lash is 12.1. I could have gotten this way higher with better rolls. Like for example, I'm missing like 30% more damage on my basic, so this probably could be 13k. Who knows? But you want to get this Arc Lash damage as high as possible, so you want to put all 5 points into it. And then coming down here, you're going to have extra points left over, so you're going to want to put those extra points into teleport just to get its cooldown as low as possible, because Raiment increases the teleport cooldown, so it makes it take longer. And then the key passive that you want to make sure that you guys grab is going to be Devouring Blaze. And you want that amulet that has Devouring Blaze, because that right there is going to give you so much extra damage. And remember, we have our Flame Shield to give us Immobilize. So guaranteed we can proc this whenever Flame Shield is up on an elite or on a boss or anything. And the thing about bosses talking about this is Immobilize is considered stagger. It falls in that stagger crowd control area when the boss is stunned. So you will get this insane crit damage bonus when the boss is staggered. So this is how you will nuke bosses. And then you want to obviously get Ball of Lightning with the +5. See, I have 12 out of 5. This is amazing. This is what I'm talking about when I say on the amulet you want mastery, and then you want to try on your legs to get Ball of Lightning, and then you want to put the 5 points in there. That's how I have 12. And that's kind of like the key points of the build. And then also you want to make sure you grab Shocking Impact, because again, we're going to be stunning all the time. So this is going to be free AoE explosions. Critical strike chance to have a chance to spawn Crackling Energy. Again, you want this because we want to get Crackling Energy, because we're going to get magic. As you guys see, 12 magic every time. And then as we said, you come down here, you get increased critical strike chance with lightning, so you're just ramping up the crit until you crit. And then enemies deal less damage to you. This is going to help you to be in the fight and attack. This is why you want high critical strike chance, so everything around you is doing less damage to you. And then here, shock skills have a 9% chance to stun. Again, this is important because this is what's going to get you all that damage. Now, let's jump into the Paragon board. Before we get to Paragon, I just forgot to talk about the enchantments. So we're going to use Firebolt as our enchant. As you all sorcerers know, you need to have Firebolt as your enchant because you just miss out on having so much damage, and by this everything will catch on fire, which will proc Devouring Blaze to proc and give you all that increased damage. Now, you could make the argument that since we can cause guaranteed immobilization, that you could run something else, but here's the thing. You would only get that increased critical strike when you immobilize, versus with Firebolt, you still get increased critical strike chance for hitting targets. So that's why, in my opinion, you should still always run Firebolt, because you'll get that big proc for immobilize, but then as you're dealing damage, you'll get that 60% increased critical strike damage with using Arc Lash and everything. Now for the second enchant, we're going to be using Arc Lash, and the reason why is because it's going to cause a stun. So this is what I was talking about when I was saying if you don't have Raiment, this build will still work, but Raiment just makes it 10 times easier. Now the nice thing about this is, like, you'll cast a cooldown ability. So if you cast Frost Nova, right, you just made everything vulnerable, and you have all that crowd control damage just procced all at once, and you swing, and that's what makes you hit for millions. That's kind of like the secret, the bread and butter. And then also, as you're casting your shields and everything, you're also going to be proccing stuns, which again, if you hit with Arc Lash on stunned enemies, it reduces cooldowns. So the synergy is just all there, and every time you stun an enemy, you get magic. That's why you never run out of magic with this build. So the Paragon board is going to be a little interesting. There's a lot of choices that you could use and different things that you could have, but you guys are going to see on a lot of these Paragon boards that we chose, we didn't even go for the legendary power because it just didn't benefit us. Actually, only one board we went for the legendary power, and the rest we just kind of have them to have them. So we're going to obviously follow the path, and for our first glyph socket, we are going to add Flame Feeder. Again, this is nice because everything's going to be burning with the Firebolt enchant, and then this is also going to help increase our direct damage to targets. Now, if survivability is an issue for you in the end game and you're trying to figure out how to survive, you can always replace this socket for Territorial, where you'll do increased damage to close targets, but you'll take damage reduction from close enemies. Again, either or is a good choice. Maybe Territorial might be the better option in the end game, but I currently just chose the more damage option. That was just my preference because I just wanted to kill as fast as possible. But Territorial might be the better choice for endgame. Now, going into your second glyph socket, you're going to be grabbing Tactician. Now, Tactician is important because this is going to boost all our rare nodes, and then also the reason why we really want this, guys, is because we want more damage for casting defensive abilities. Remember, teleporting with Raiment is part of our whole burst. It's part of our entire setup. That's what's going to give us all that damage with the stun. Now, the fact that we have all that stun damage procced because of Raiment and all the enemies around us, we just increased our damage by tenfold. And that is why you want this. That's what's making you hit so hard. And you have to remember too, Frost Nova is also a defensive skill. Flame Shield is also a defensive skill. So that is how we're doing all this. So for example, with Flame Shield, when I immobilize a target, I get that 150% increased critical strike damage, that multiplier. Now I just proc this on top of that. And also they're CC'd. They're stunned because it's a cooldown. So you guys see like where all this synergy and how you're getting all this high damage is coming in. And that's why Tactician, I think you really should aim for your second one. And here's the reason why. Is because you're going to be boosting your damage to burning enemies, boosting your intelligence, which by boosting your intelligence you're going to hit harder. Right, and then down here you're gonna get damage reduction. So this is gonna help you to be tankier. So like I said, that's why for me personally I didn't go with Territorial on the first one, because I'm getting all my tankiness here. But again, it's player choice. You guys can go with that option, whatever makes you feel comfortable. It's not gonna necessarily make or break the build. That's your preference. And then you're gonna take the time to come up here just to grab more damage to burning, but also grab this increased damage to elites. Obviously, you want more elite damage because elites are the most annoying enemy in the game, and they have too much health for no reason. And then you're gonna make your way over to the Static Surge board. I forgot the first board's actually called Burning Instinct, and then we're gonna actually grab our first legendary power, which is gonna be Static Surge. Now with this is going to allow us to get all our magic back, and this is what's going to help us to always have magic. You will never run out of magic, even in boss fights, especially if you guys decide to go the Chain Lightning route. You are going to see, you would have, like, Chain Lightning crit so much, there's going to be magic everywhere. I mean, there's going to be, like, crackling energy everywhere for you to pick up. So there's going to be so much magic or energy you're going to get back from that. And again, every time we stun, so when we teleport with Raiment, 10 magic. We cast Frost Nova, 10 magic. We cast, what was it again? Teleport, yeah. We get it back. So you guys get it. All the defensive skills that we have, we are getting this back. And this is per enemy. So that's what I'm saying. Like, if you just spawn all... This is what I'll do. I'll usually spawn all my balls around me. So, and then I'll teleport in into, like, a group of, like, 5 or 10. All my magic's back. I'm back to full. I'll swing with Arc Lash because they're all stunned to reduce my cooldowns. And then I'll activate another ball of lightning to keep it spinning around me. And then obviously you're going to want to come down here. And you are going to want to grab Overwhelming. This is just because you're going to be stunning a lot, so you might as well grab that increased damage to stunned enemies, and also it's another damage to elites. Then the first glyph socket you're going to be grabbing is going to be Control. Again, Control is very important, and this is where Boots, this is where Penitent Greaves is going to tie into increasing our damage. So you see we deal 10x increased damage to slowed or chilled enemies. We have those boots on, so now we're doing 20x. So you guys see how we're hitting so hard all the time. And then also we deal 20x increased damage to stunned or frozen. Again, this will proc with staggering on bosses, and you guys have to remember too, we stun and freeze a lot with this build, a lot. And obviously this is going to give us a major crowd control bonus. So as you can see, I have 44 out of 25 because what I did was I went back and I put my extra Paragon points in here. When you guys are doing this, I want you guys to just, as you're going through the tree, I want you guys to grab the bare minimum that you need to get the buff. Just keep that in your mind. The bare minimum what you need, and then when you're done, you can kind of min-max and put the extra points where they need to go. And then we're going to make our way all the way this way instead of going up, because we want to grab another damage to stun. And this is also going to give us maximum magic, which again, it doesn't hurt to get more maximum magic, but we just really want the damage to stun. Then we're going to make our way over to the Ceaseless Conduit board. Now this is where I made changes in the build because I actually wanted to add a 6th board. You guys are going to see why. So this is a great passive. I'm kind of sad that I gave it up, but I don't know. I feel like what I gave it up for is way more worth it. Crackling, I can't really tell the difference between my crackling energy damage now versus when I had this. I'm pretty sure it'd be a lot more, but it's not enough that I lost sleep over it. But we're going to come to this board because we want to increase our crackling energy damage, because crackling energy will be a major part of the build. And then we also want to grab it, we're just grabbing this to help us get that intelligence that we need for charged. And the reason why we want charged is because every time we pick up crackling energy, we scale up from 5% to 15x more damage. And like I said, crackling energy is ever. So crackling energy is now giving us max magic back, and it's giving us more DPS output. And again, this procs on bosses. All you have to do is crit the boss, you spawn crackling energy. You know, just like that. And then we're going to come up here real quick just to grab more lightning damage, because our whole build is centered on lightning. So this is a pretty nice buff. Might as well just grab this, and again, more crackling energy damage just so it hits harder. Then we're going to make our way over to the enchantment master board, and over here we're actually going to grab Elementalist. Now this is nice because this is going to boost our non-physical damage. Now by boosting our non-physical damage, it's going to buff all our damage across the board, because remember, the higher that we can get our base damage stat at, the harder we're going to crit, the harder our stuns are going to be. So you guys got to remember, your base is very important. That's why I say your ideal goal in the end game should try to get as the highest intelligence stat as possible. Like if you can hit 1000, that's nuts. If you can, I don't know if you can, but if you could, that's crazy. And then what you want to do is you want to grab this just to get that 10, because I believe this is the one where you need 40. And then obviously you're going to grab this passive right here, which is going to by default give you more non-physical. But the reason why we chose this one is, you know, we're dealing all types of damage. So again, this is going to increase our damage by 15x, because we're dealing cold, we're dealing frost, we're dealing lightning. So we are always getting this buff. And if we're not dealing cold, we're at least dealing lightning and fire. So you guys see how we're just hitting so hard. Now, another reason why we chose this is because this is our non-physical damage board. And by getting this buff, we just buffed all of these like non-physicals to 8.8. Now these were originally 5. So by buffing like these 3 to 8.8, that added, what is that? 9, 2.4. That added 11.4% more non-physical by doing that buff to it. And then if we come over here, this one at base, if I remember, was I think it was 20. So we just added like 15% more to it. So, you know, we added like an extra, and then plus like this part here, I think this one was sitting at 10, if I remember correctly. So yeah, so we just added almost 40% more non-physical damage just by putting that buff on, and then we have that multiplier damage over here. Now we're going to work our way this way, and we're going to grab this because this is going to boost our non-physical and give us more maximum health. Again, maximum health is very important for the build because the bigger our health is, the bigger our shields are going to be. And then we're going to jump over here to grab this more damage to elites and more non-physical. And then we're going to make our way to the last board. And this is what I gave up that Ceaseless Conduit for, was to get more vulnerable damage. And that is what this one is going to do for us right here. This is going to be Exploit. Exploit's very good. And this kind of ties back to that mistake that I was talking about that I made earlier with my gear and my leveling and my character. Like, I was so focused on the fact that I'm killing everything, I'm stunning, I'm hitting hard, etc. But I didn't take vulnerable damage into consideration to really help me nuke things. And guys, don't make the mistake that I made. Focus vulnerable on your gear. And the reason why you want this is because vulnerable is going to give you that flat 20% increased damage at base, and then you can just scale it up from there. But then also this is nice because if we deal damage to vulnerable targets, it's going to scale up to 10x. So this is how you're going to hit so hard with Arclash. And then obviously, you know, we're just going to grab, you know, the vulnerable one, and then we're going to obviously grab the resistance one to grab that 10 intelligence. I mean, not to grab that 10 intelligence, but just to grab that extra dexterity that's up here. And that's basically the Paragon board, guys. I hope this all helped you. I tried to make you guys a really fun, cool leveling build. A lot of this stuff is going to synergize together, as you guys will see. Remember, the one thing that you guys can swap out on the first board is territorial. If you guys feel like staying alive is a problem, you can go ahead and grab this extra 10% increased damage reduction if that seems to be a problem. And just also remember too, I did design this build to work with Chain Lightning, so even if you go down the Chain Lightning route, excuse me, you can still take advantage of this board and it won't mess you up. Again, guys, I hope you all enjoyed it. I really appreciate the love and the fact that you guys made it this far into the video. The growth on the channel has been amazing. I've gotten like 20 subs in like the last few days, so for me that's a big deal. Very grateful. My watch time has gone up. Thank you guys so much. If you guys see anything wrong with the build, please sound off in the comment section down below. I would love to hear it. Maybe you guys might teach me something. I don't claim to know everything. I'm learning the game just like you guys, and I'm just having a blast, and I love it, and I love you guys. The community is amazing. You're so helpful. Like, even the negative comments that I get on some of my videos, it's okay, because that's just going to help me grow to make you guys better content. So if you guys see something you don't like, please just tell me. I prefer criticism over someone just patting me on the back all the time saying, hey, you're doing good. You know, just tell me the truth, because my goal as a content creator is to bring you guys better content. Thank you guys so much, and I'll catch y'all in the next one.